Hail, hail! Good evening, folks, and welcome along to the Endless Celts Podcast. I'd say obviously the international break at the moment, so we had a quiet weekend. I think Stephen Friday night wasn't a show, so we thought we'd get straight back onto it tonight. But with no club football to chat about, we thought we'd delve back in time for the first time in a while. We're going to do one of our Champions League rewinds. How are you, mate?
All good, man. I was actually looking back in the archives like today, no going back to see when we last done a rewind. It's been nearly a year. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No, I love doing these podcasts, and as you said, it's a perfect time. We just got our Champions League group league phase announced who we're going to be playing and stuff. So take a wee trip back to some memorable moments as a Celtic supporter, and I'm sure it'll be a good thing. So I'm looking forward to it. And just to make the viewers aware as well, we still have no access to our Twitter page, mainly the fact because I changed phones and I forgot the password. So I'm trying to get on it as best as I can. Hopefully that'll be sorted for this week, and we'll start doing updates from there again. But yeah, looking forward to it, Anthony. And as you said, quiet weekend. But I don't know about you. Where were you in the weekend? Huh?
Oh, it wasn't so quiet on it all. It was still a family weekend, but a few pints were had. It had to be said. I was one of the 3,000 Celtic fans down at Old Trafford this weekend. Me and my missus Lisa, we took our wee boy Jude. Well, I say wee boy, he's 11 now, but he's, as mentioned a couple of times, Celtic because he's obviously his first love, but Man United a close second. So when we seen that came up, we thought, what better way to introduce him to Old Trafford? So it was a brilliant weekend. We'd done the match on the Saturday and had a wee bit of dinner as well. And then yesterday we went and done the stadium tour as well. So absolutely brilliant. And just the Celtic legends getting the wee 5-4 victory on penalties, that was just the icing on the cake. So it's obviously quiet family weekend last weekend. I get the feeling it's not going to be that this weekend as the OGs of Endless Celts. We are heading to Belfast for your
Mhm.
birthday weekend, the big 3-0. God, if we make 30 years in 2 days, I think we'll be. I think the 30 years in 3 days, sorry, I think we'll count that as a success. This could be carnage.
Oh, but I'm looking forward to it. As I said to you when we were in the bit before we came live, it's going to drag in, but looking forward to having this all over for the first time. I may add the Belfast, obviously,
Mhm.
since we've known each other and done the podcast. So a good crack. We've got a whole couple of days planned out, bringing in the Celtic game, and obviously going to be getting smashed up with the
Aye,
pals, as you Scottish people say. That you
aye.
were speaking about some legends. I'm sure there'll be some of the legends who featured in that game that we'll talk about tonight, like Gary Hooper and Joe Ledley and things of that nature.
Absolutely. That's the reason that they were able to be in that lineup on Saturday is probably no short ways just with some of their escapades in this particular campaign. So yeah, we're absolutely buzzing for Saturday, and but really been looking forward to it for some of the viewers that perhaps haven't been with us for very long. We've done the Champions League rewinds, looking back over our previous times in the tournaments, and we got a few of them done quite quickly, and then it kind of fell away. So we have done the O'Neill era, and we have done the Gordon Strachan era. So we are in. This is what, but it's literally our most successful period ever in the season ever in the Champions League. It's a year where we finished with 10 points, which is the first and only time a Scottish club has done so and made it to the last 16. But the mere facts only tell half the story because it was history was made away from home with our first win. So we put arguably the greatest club side ever assembled to the sword on a magical night at Celtic Park. And of course, there was the match night 6 drama against Spartak Moscow whilst we were all tuning in to find out what the Barcelona Benfica score was as well. So it's going to be one I'm really looking forward to getting our teeth into, Stephen. One of the things I just want to mention just before we get started, I'm buzzing because this is the first time, because all my old kits are stored away
Mm.
back in Fault House. This is the first time that we've done one of these rewinds where I'm able to actually wear the strip from that season that we did
Yes.
it. And I have to say as well, what I loved about it, you'd probably say it was possibly Nike's finest season doing the kits for Celtic. Not only did you have this magnificent, the thinner hoot number for the 125th anniversary, we also had the sort of black and very dark grey hoot effort for the away kit. But we also had a special commemorative third kit as well, which was the all white with the black collar and the white Celtic cross as well. I know you were a big fan of a lot of those kits yourself, mate. Would you say this was a good year to be a a collector of kits for Celtic?
Oh, 100%, 100%. A brilliant year to be a collector. And speaking of collectors, my wee brother, Daniel's becoming somewhat of a collector of Celtic tops. He's getting them off in the older years. But yeah, that black kit, when I was watching the highlights, to kind of refresh memory again, that black kit, it's unbelievable. And even the Lennon one with the tricolour on his neck,
Oh yeah, it was lovely.
the zip up, they've done some cracking things back then. And I think even this season for Adidas have pulled a couple of crackers out of the bag. But yeah, if you're looking for the kit connoisseur, maybe for likes of yourself and Gav on the podcast, he always displays his kits behind him. This year is probably one of the best years up there for collecting the kits. And like your sport night, it still looks incredible. So I mean, it's like a modern day kit.
It's fresh looking kit. It's a little bit more snug than what it was 12 years ago, but what can I say? That's what 12 years of solid bevian will do for you. But what can you do? So we'll get right into it, mate. And I think possibly a precursor before the season began. Just to go back to the beginning, Celtic had started this season as champions, first time in 4 years. Neil Lennon's second full season in charge. We had a previous the previous year we played in the Europa League with a really strong group that include Rennes, Udinese, and Atletico Madrid.
Yep.
Very unlucky to miss out on the second place that day. I think it was either 1 point or goal difference, but some of the performances that team strung together in that tournament, in that particular group, by his own admissions, Neil Lennon says it kind of sowed the seeds for the campaign that was to come against, obviously, in the main event in the Champions League. But usually, and it's happened since as well, some of the early qualifiers so often are the ones that put extra grey hairs on the head, and we really it's been a stressful experience getting through them. But we had 2 qualifiers to play, even as champions. But this was probably one of our smoothest qualifying campaigns. Started off with some old foes, HJK Helsinki, who we hadn't played since the Martin O'Neill years of 2000. We did go 1-0 behind, don't get me wrong, and that's maybe where the nerves started. But Gary Hooper and Charlie Mulgrew got us back and to take a 2-1 lead over to Greece. And then a relatively comfortable time, Joe Ledley and Georgie Samaras. Sammy, who would go on to be... Yeah, absolutely. Who would be
no, you said Greece.
Did I say Greece? Sorry, Finland.
Or from Finland.
My apologies. I've got a 1 in geography as well. That's terrible. Over to Finland, sorry, for the return leg. And Joe Ledley and Georgie Samaras managed to get us through into the playoff round, where we met Henrik Larsson's original club, Helsingborg. And again, you're worried. Early kick-off, still in the summer, Helsingborg already into their season. This is a big banana skin. And again, a comfortable 2-0 win away from home, followed up by another 2, the same scoreline back at Celtic Park, and a 4-0 aggregate win. Hooper and Victor Wanyama getting those goals as well. It's not very often we have qualifying campaigns like that, Stephen, but I just wish we'd had more of them that we could talk about over the rewind episodes.
I think these Champions League qualifying rounds are a bit hit and miss, aren't they? We've had our ups and downs throughout the years. I mean, Clues and Furnace Faros and teams of that nature giving us trouble in the past. And I mean, HJK Helsinki, we played them a few times. We played them under Ronnie Daly as well in the qualifiers. That's when Cal McGregor was playing on the wing. He gave him his chance there. Helensborg, as you say, Henrik Larsson, the main link, and Jordan Larsson as well played for them. So there's a lot of history between them 2 clubs. But before we go any further, I want to refresh people's minds and play the nice intro video that Willie provided us for the Champions League rewind, and then we'll get stuck right into it.
Absolutely superb. And apologies to Willie for totally forgetting to put that on, Stephen. After all that work that he done beforehand, there's me just ploughing on ahead. So apologies, Willie, and thanks again for putting that video together for us. But sorry, Stephen, we interrupted there. So your thoughts on the sort of qualifying pre-match qualifiers before the tournament began?
Well, I think as you've seen there, that Chris Commons goal, absolutely sublime effort, edge of the box, bicycle kick type goal. He was really vital in this campaign. And you're right. I mean, the things with the like Scandinavian clubs are most when you play them at that stage of the season, they've started their league campaign maybe 5 or 6 games in. So you are worried it could be potentially a banana skin. But I mean, if you look at it, we did concede over 2 legs against Helsingborgs, and we got through HJK Helsinki. Again, it could be a tough away venue, but you've seen Samras. He was, again, sublime. I know he played in that Legends game. That was a tidy finish to the bottom right-hand corner. And even in the comments tonight, I mean, 420 somewhere is getting into the spirit of things. Brown Warrior, we're all in a celebratory mood, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have to face the qualifying stages next season by the looks of the coefficient points. So something we're probably going to have to get used to again. I particularly didn't mind it if it was only maybe the playoff you're having to do. But see, when you're having to do like the third round into the playoff, then you're kind of worrying. Then you're kind of been like, there's 4 games here where you could kind of slip up. But look, we'll get into the groups, and as you said, and I'll let you continue, there's some tasty games that we can talk about coming up.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And so, like you say, the group was drawn, and we were drawn in Group G, alongside all familiar opponents for sort of previous years. We'd obviously played Spartak Moscow in the playoff round a few years before under Gordon Strachan, another incredible night that we've discussed on a previous rewind, the penalty shootout, unbelievable atmosphere. We were also drawn alongside Benfica as well, Portuguese champions at the time, and obviously a massive club in their own right as well. And of course, the regulars, FC Barcelona, who it just seemed that we seemed to get every year at that particular time. And we actually got them the following year again as well. So I think there was actually the running joke at that point, wasn't there, that Celtic fan goes into a bar in Barcelona and the barman just says the usual. But it was one of those. We obviously got onto it pretty soon, but it was an absolutely magical night, and quite fitting for the club's 125th anniversary. But for all the excitement, Stephen, it started off with a home match against Benfica, and to say it was a bit of a drab affair, is saying the least. I remember being at the match, and there was a lot of excitement. There was obviously a bit of trepidation as well, that was obviously with our legendary away form in the Champions League, that we really needed to get off to a good start, because with playing Benfica on match night 5, we thought it possibly could come down to the head-to-head, even for finishing third place in this group. And although Celtic, to be fair to them, didn't do anything traditionally Celtic at the back, and they defended quite well. I don't recall Benfica having too many glaring opportunities. We also, for all the excitement, for all the buzz around the stadium, and the backing that the fans got, Celtic didn't really threaten too much going forward either. I would probably say it's probably one of the poorest nights at Celtic Park I remember in terms of the Champions League, just in terms of it wasn't very exciting. The team didn't have the fans a lot to kind of run with, although we did our very best. But I suppose in the long run, we don't traditionally start the tournament too well, so actually getting a point on the board, maybe not the worst thing.
I think you could say it was a fatal point in the end when you look back, when we get back to the summary of the campaign. But I think you're right. And look, going by my recollection of this game, it's pretty poor. And even trying to find highlights for it was near enough impossible. But what I can remember, like you said, that it was a game where we cancelled each other out. I think there was a lot of trepidation, bit of nervousness, being back on that big stage. Obviously, the year before, when the group stages of the Europa League, this is a step up. And like you said, quite fittingly at the start, this kind of sowed the kind of the will together, so to speak, for us to have a successful campaign in the end and give us that experience of playing top European things. But I think it was just the build-up all round. And again, as you said, maybe getting top of the players, maybe make the players a bit anxious, a bit nervous. And I mean, you look at that Benfica team, and when we talk about going over to their ground later on in the podcast, but I mean, You remember your man Cardozo? He used to give me the fear all the time, that striker. I think they had the Argentinian defender, Ezekiel Gary, wasn't it? Or Gary, whatever you call him. His name, probably butchered that pronunciation. I'll get slobbered in the comments here in a wee minute. But they had
I think
some.
we're both going to be guilty of that tonight, my friend, because looking at some of the scorers for the teams, I'm going, I hope Stephen can help me out here. Maybe somebody in the crowd will be able to, the attendance will be able to do it as well.
They had some squad, and I think that probably played a big part in that, the first game. And as you said, when you look at that group as a whole and kind of the optics surrounding that, we were kind of banking on getting the 3 points. And then that put us onto the cosh for getting into the next games, which I had to handle. We had to be on our A game, let's say. But yeah, starting off with a point at Celtic Park, I mean, you're still not getting beaten home, which is a plus there. And I mean, if we go into the comments a wee bit, Dominic comes in, the offenders were a disgrace and got away with murder. Bloody Italians for you, 100%. We'll definitely come on to that. Monty, Anthony's beard, Champions League level, why Stephen Sapper is more factual comments. You know what, Monty? I'm going to do a rewind Monday just on you slagging this. I think that would be fantastic.
Be a highlight reel in itself.
Be a highlight reel. But yeah, no, Tony, I think there's not really much we can say about this first game. 0 each.
Yeah. Nil each, and that was pretty much it. But for all the sort of drab dullness of match night 1, it could not have been more of the opposite for match night 2, mate. I remember it was a 6 o'clock kickoff, and I was still working in Edinburgh at the time, and I was getting. I think I had to get the train home. It would have been a Tuesday night, and I think the train was delayed. So I actually, when I got in, Celtic were winning 1-0, and you think, my God, this doesn't happen very often. Let's soak this up, and then typical. We thought it was going to end up going back to the usual ways. I say Gary Hooper opened the scoring quite early on. Good bit of play. Receiving the ball into the right-hand side and tucking it beyond the keeper. However, just in the run-up to half-time, the traditional Celtic away performance started to creep in, and either side of the half, if I pronounced this correctly, Emenike scored both sides the half-time whistle to put Spartak 2-1 up, and we thought, here we go again. It's going to be a typical brave but ultimately fruitless performance for Celtic away from home. However, the team rallied, and they had a fantastic equaliser through James Forrest, or I think, looking back, it might have been classed as an own goal, but the way I see it, it was going in when Forrest hits it, so I'm giving it to wee Jamesy. And then, again, Celtic pushed and pushed and pushed for the winner rather than just sitting back and being happy with the point, which was great to see. And we got our rewards with Emilio Izaguirre with that absolute wonder left foot, putting in a fantastic header. It was obviously Willie put it in the opening reel there. And Georgie Samaras, as he proved so much in this tournament this season, was our talisman with an absolutely superb header to give Celtic a 3-2 victory and a massive 3 points. So there we were going into the double header against Barcelona, mate, with 4 points on the board. And even the most optimistic of Celtic fans probably did not expect that, to say the least.
No, going away to Moscow, I know we had previous there on their quarters track, and like you said, we spoke about that, the Paul Hartley stuff, which was fantastic and things of that nature. But I mean, the nature of the beast totally changes in the landscape of that game when you're in the group stage proper. So I mean, you're going there, and our away record was shambolic, and like we touched upon the opening Benfica game at home, you're kind of hoping to get the 3 points and maybe get a point away to Moscow. That's your kind of best case scenario, so to speak. So to go there and get the victory was incredible. And again, when I was looking back on it, what a scene. I thought Wanyama looked incredible that game. I thought he was a Rolls Royce, same as Scott Brown, and we were getting into tackles, we were pushing them high, we were really, really forcing the issue. Emmanuel Emenike, again, like Cardozo, used to annoy the shit clean out of me. Used to really bug me. He always scored against us. It was just one of them things. Good striker, obviously, all in all. But yeah, and I think around about that time was, I always remember sitting with my granddad watching the game, and it sounds bad, but it's obviously me being young and naive, but I was wanting to beat them more so the fact that Aidan McGeady's on the thing to get it. Like, fuck you, you left us to go to the Spartak Moscow, obviously for big money, but I was kind of on the edge of that. And I was like, fuck, he's played us here. That we can't let this guy win. It's obviously me being young and a wee bit naive. But yeah, Gary Hooper goal was good. The James Forrest one, he just came on, didn't he, as a sub?
Yeah.
And then he was charging up the right hand side. He got played in, and he hit it. The keeper saved it, bounced off their defender in. All them goals count, own goal, whatever. But you give it to Jamesy in that scenario, and Samaras does at the end. And you look at you look now, and we always cry out for physicality in the box and going up for headers, scoring headers. In this campaign, we scored a few cracking headers, and the ball from Emilio Ezagiri does bump clean over. He was fantastic, a brilliant left back on his day until he got his injury. And then Samra's been in the right place at the right time. And I actually thought as well we were the better team in the second half, especially. I thought we were in control of it. I thought we, as you said, it was, as we were saying about the start of the Champions League, this was like a de facto home game where we actually looked calm, composed. We looked like we were enjoying the pressure, enjoying playing that environment. And yeah, it was just a fantastic performance. And when the camera panned on Lennon, the celebrations, the pandemonium was, their moments live with you forever. And you look at the squad as well, bare bones. Some of it, I think we were playing Matthews out of possession sometimes. We had defenders then who didn't usually play. Midfield players. Scott Brown was injured for some of the games, so we were up against the wall for a long periods of time in certain games in this group. But no, that Spartak one lives long in the memory. And when I was looking at the highlights, the first comment underneath the video I was watching was like, "This is my favourite ever Celtic away game in Europe." And it was like from 11 years ago. Do you know what I mean? They're just like, wow, it's just things like that. It's just incredible to look back on and read people's thoughts back then. And back then, it's only 11 years ago. Sound like I'm 50, but you know what I mean. But no, Tony, it was a fantastic game, and in that lovely black kit as well.
Absolutely, like you say, time flies, and unfortunately, those kind of results haven't came around too often. So when they do, it's absolutely important that we make the most of it. So, like I say, that was match night 1 and 2, and that put us into the traditional double header match with the team that we hadn't faced so far, FC Barcelona. And of course, again, doesn't need much introduction, although Pep Guardiola had moved on by this point. He had been replaced by Tito Villanova, unfortunately the late Tito Villanova, but pretty much the full team was still there. So it's not hyperbole to say that a lot of people do say it is the greatest club side ever assembled, or certainly that they've seen in the modern era. And this was a team that steamrolled all before it, with obviously Lionel Messi spearheading that up front. But yeah, again, although of course we had far less of the ball than what we did against Spartak, we do feel that Celtic played well that night. They obviously took the lead. Always remember Ian Crocker coming away with it, do not adjust your TV sets. It is, Barcelona 0, Celtic 1 sort of thing. He then, of course, came up with another, famous quote when Iniesta equalised, where typical fantastic tiki-taka move is where he just says, this team just play fantasy football for real, and they absolutely did. A little one into the bottom corner, giving Fraser Forster no chance. But although Celtic's performance was spirited, we wouldn't be exaggerating to say that it was very much a backs to the wall job. But what a wall it was, Stephen. Le Grand Mundial, as the Barcelona press nicknamed him the next day. I'm obviously talking about Fraser Forster, a big Geordie goalkeeper that night. Had a terrific performance, a David Marshall-esque performance. If we're going to talk about Nou Camp, famous nights in the Nou Camp, time and time again thwarted the Barcelona attack. And again, Wally put some, I think it was the famous save for the header as well from Messi. That was another fantastic stop. And it looked as though all of that the fantastic defensive display was going to reward us with yet another point on the board, reaching the halfway point. But typical Celtic, it wasn't to be, and we lost a last-minute winner. I think it was coming from a corner kick on the other side. It was one of those wicked balls in right across the box, and unfortunately Jordi Alba was there at the ref just to put it in. Forster absolutely no chance. It was one of those nights to a point. Yeah, it probably is Bonnie. I don't deny that. It was one of those ones where we didn't. I felt we deserved the point that night purely on the fact of how well we defended. But you could possibly argue the same for Scotland last night. Eventually, if you let this team come at you, eventually you run the risk of wearing us down. And unfortunately, on that night, they did right at the depth.
Yeah, I mean, let's be fair. Wasn't it when Yama opened the scoring for us? Header, was it? Was it when Yama?
Samaras. Samaras
Samra,
with a
sorry,
header.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, it was Samras when Yama scored in the home fixture. But yeah, to take the lead at the new camp was incredible. Again, another set piece. So I think we made the most of these opportunities in the Champions League, the physicality and power and height and things of that nature. And I mean, from the first 45 minutes, I thought we played okay. And like I said, our backs are going to be against the wall. I mean, fuck me, Iniesta, Xavi, do you know what I mean? Alexis Sanchez, I actually forgot he played from at one point. Do you know what I mean? Lionel Messi. It's incredible. And you look at the back line. I think Mascherano played in one of the games. You have Bartra, Piqué, Alba, Alves, and it's just an incredible side. The only weak link really was Victor Valdez in reality. So I mean, we made the most of that, obviously, but and they're defending at set pieces. But that night was probably up there with one of the best goalkeeping performances I've ever seen. Ever seen. And again, only been watching football now, what, about 22 years from what I can remember. I'm obviously coming 30, but you take away your childhood because you don't remember much. But yeah, Fraser Foster at that time was unplayable. I think Lionel Messi described him as the best goalkeeper he's faced, or the hardest goalkeeper he's faced to get a goal pass. And there was one when the ball was played to Messi and he just hit it, and Foster in his big right hand just clawed it back out again. And you could just see Messi going, what do I have to do to beat this man? Do you know what I mean? And all the intricate play, there was times when they were playing the ball in around the box. What I loved about some of the stuff I've seen, Foster was closing the angle. And when a 6'+7" goalkeeper's run at you, and you only have a certain amount of time, that angle's reduced a lot. So, I mean, some of the saves were incredible. Some of the point blank saves were incredible. Double saves, triple saves. He was unplayable. And I always say, I do believe he deserved more England caps when he was with us. I thought there was times where he, in my opinion, he was the best England goalkeeper. But again, it was snobbery towards the league. And it's like Brown Morey and yourself said, heartbreak at the final 10 minutes of that game. We lapse in concentration, just a ball across. I mean, I think there was maybe 2 or 3 players who could have cleared it. Obviously, tiredness crept in. And Jordi Alba, of all players, Jordi Alba sneaks up at the back left-hand post and puts it in the back of the net. But you look at the highlight play. I mean, we talk about modern-day fullbacks. We talk about, I mean, like Kyle Walker. You talk about the likes of, I don't know, Danny Alves and Jordi Alba and things of that nature. You look at that team, Jordi Alba and Alves are the epitome of how modern day fullbacks even play now. I think they started this kind of stuff. I mean, inverted coming in. Pep Guardiola obviously was their big influence, but as you said, he moved on. But his influence in the core of that team was still there for everyone to see. And they were just incredible. And I just loved their intricate play. I mean, Xavi, Iniesta, I think it was Mascherano, Abuye. I mean, they could all do a job. They were all fantastic players, world class, and we didn't have the right to take the lead at New Camp, but we've done it. Do you know what I mean? And it paved the way. We thought by paving the way and gaining experience, it paved the way for something fantastic, which is going to come up. But yeah, heartbreak at the end, and 4 points is still a good total to have after 3 games. So you're kind of chuffed. Like you're still a wee bit hopeful that you can reach the last whatever of the Champions League or the Europa League. So yeah, all in all, still a good Champions League campaign so far.
Absolutely. When you're at the halfway point, you've got 4 points on the board. Then that's not too bad at all, especially with the fact you've got 2 home games coming up as well. Although one of them being
Tony,
against at Barcelona side. Sorry, Stephen, on you go.
Can I ask you something? Just again, just being curious here. Obviously, Fraser Foster got that nickname. What's the best goalkeeper performance you've seen in the Champions League? Doesn't even have to be from Celtic. Doesn't have to be from. What would be the best goal?
I suppose there's not many times. I mean, you know my own opinion on keepers half the time. Anyway, mate, I'm not the most forgiving of them, to say the least. But I'm trying to think of ones. I remember David De Gea having a brilliant performance in the Bernabeu. One of the times I think they played. I think Man United drew Madrid. Might even have been Fergie's final season, and I think he had a great match in the Nou Camp. But I would in the Bernabeu. Sorry. In terms of great, I'm struggling to see past Forster in this tournament, or possibly even David Marshall's in the Nou Camp as well. Obviously you're more inclined to remember them because they're Celtic goalkeepers. But I think even kind of neutral football fans, it'd be hard pressed to remember too many other ones that could rival it. To be perfectly honest, it was just one of the we had the reason why I thought Forster was going to sort of recreate Marshall that night. Obviously, Marshall had a clean sheet, and that put us through 1-0 in aggregate. And the other match as well, we just thought the way that he'd played, he just deserved to take Celtic a point in that Nou Camp performance. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. But it's a great question, mate. But unfortunately, I can't really think of any ones that topped it. Apparently,
Well,
apart from that David De Gea one.
I'll put you on the spot even further. Brian Moyer came in and talked about David Marshall at the new camp.
Uh-huh.
What was a better performance, David Marshall or Fraser Foster?
Oh, again, I would say probably just for the fact that it put us through, and you got to remember that the lad was only 18, 19 or something like that. I'll go with David Marshall, but it's to use my famous phrase, it's the toin of a course. It's you could go either or, but I would probably say Marshall's just shades it just purely on that was a great entertaining Barcelona side as well. Your Ronaldinho's, Saviolas, etc. But he was magnificent that night, and obviously it got us to the quarterfinals, and we thought we were going to go back to back UEFA Cup finals, and sadly it wasn't to be. But memories that you'll never forget.
Mm-hmm. No, look, again, I remember the David Marshall game. As I said, it probably buddies would have been about 8 or 9 at that time, and sitting, as you know, watch the games with my grand always. David Marshall playing in New Camp, and I think the first 2 minutes he had to make 3 or 4 saves, didn't he?
Yeah,
there was one, the ball was tipped over the defence, and the Barcelona players run onto it. He comes out, blocks him, and he had to go up and make another save. I think he was running off adrenaline. I think any Celtic fan in that case would have been. So that performance was incredible. But being fresh in my mind, I would probably say Fraser Foster. I mean, like the David Marshall is a great memory, but as I said, something that sticks in my mind is Fraser Foster. Where both these games, he was just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, we had the return leg. We played Barcelona at the Nou Camp, and straight back a couple of weeks later, we were the hosts as the Catalans came to town. And there's, David Provan says it in the commentary, Stephen, maybe out with Lisbon 67, he couldn't think of a result off the top of his head that topped it as a single result. Of course, the night before was Celtic's 125th birthday. There was a Requiem Mass at the Carlton chapel, and it was kind of paying homage to the origins of the club, and everything that it was built for, and what it represents, and everything that was great about its formation in the 19th century. And 24 hours later, all the craziness of being able to topple an incredible Barcelona side, it was, you couldn't have scripted it any better. But Celtic played it out. They made that dream a reality. Celtic, again, under the cosh, as you would expect against a Barcelona side of this quality. But they took the lead through Victor Wanyama. Fantastic bullet header from Charlie Mulgrew corner. You say again about the set pieces. And from there, Fraser Forster put in another one of those absolutely incredible goalkeeping displays. And I think when you watch it back, he pulls off 2 or 3 fantastic ones from Messi in particular. And then, of course, you could argue, claims the assist. With 10 minutes to go, young Tony Watt came on, and it's a long goal kick that Xavi, unlike him, just does not deal with at all. The ball goes straight through, and Tony Watt, magnificent composure for an 18-year-old, just slotted it away in the far corner to send the place into absolute bedlam. Unless, I'm sure the people in the comments that were there that night, it was the foundations of the stadium were going absolutely, were shaking when that second goal went in. It was incredible. And then a couple of minutes later, Tony Watt was actually clean through again and was hauled down. It should have been a red card. And incredibly, the referee waved play on. It's still one of the most ridiculous decisions I've ever seen. But we managed to. But Messi did pull one back in stoppage time, and there was still 2 minutes of stoppage time to play. And I tell you, I felt like I aged in that time. Everyone was just biting their nails, wanting the final whistle to blow, which it finally did. And you'd have to say, as Celtic's results go, as famous results go, it's right up there with any of them. It was an absolutely incredible result.
As you said, Brown Warriors alluded to it as well. It was written in the stars. You couldn't have asked for anything better than what we were served up that night against Barcelona. And as you said, we were celebrating unbroken history. No, unbroken. That's just saying. And I remember Lee Lennon was saying he could just feel it in the air. He could feel the atmosphere. He could feel that kind of. Not that they were going to win like a sixth sense, but he could just feel something special was going to happen, and it certainly did. And like you said, again, go back to set pieces. Wanyama at the back post, I think he was on Jordi Alba or something, wasn't he? And he just took advantage of that. Bang, passed off Valdez, cracking header. Always remember celebrating. He just kind of threw his hands out, was just doing all this. I don't think he knew what to do, to be fair. But again, he was fantastic. And look at the lineup, Tony. Look at our lineup. We're missing Brownie. We started Miku up top. Yeah, I mean, all these players come in and they put an absolute. Effie Ambrose put an absolutely phenomenal shift in, and there was a save that Foster made, and again I think it was Messi on the volley was going in, and he tipped it onto the bar, and it looked like it hit the bar, but he actually tipped it onto the bar. It was incredible. 420 in the comments on fairy tale stuff, and Tony Watt. I think this is the goal that made him, but then broke him. I think he lived. He lived off that reputation for far too long. Instead of getting his head down, instead of that's behind me, and I live off it for a few weeks. Whenever you're buzzing, you scored the winning goal against Barcelona. Fantastic, amazing. But he let that goal go to his head, and unfortunately, his career didn't really pan out the way it should have. But the feeling that I had, and look, I wasn't at the game, but again, watching it in the house. I remember the next day, my voice was hoarse. It was like couldn't even speak properly, shouting, and it's just one of them things. Oh, Celtic is rubbish. Thanks very much, you are Macaulay. But we're talking about the Champions League here, but we're talking about good victories. Let's keep a positive vibe. But yeah, so is Rangers. But it's just it was just incredible. And I remember when the 4 minutes got played, the booing round the stadium, the booed the 4 minutes because as rightly as Celtic fans we were panicking, and Messi put his one back. But we've seen the game. I think Wanyama tackled Xavi very late on. The ball went out for a throw-in, and then after that the referee blew his whistle, and then just the place exploded. But yeah, definitely up there. Probably is the best Champions League like I've ever watched, and that includes Man United, includes AC Milan, and all the others. So that was just Barcelona were peak. They were. Yeah, dominating world football, ranked the first club team in the world at that point in time, and for us to get the victory was incredible.
I think that the thing is as well, it was one of the last years. It might even have been maybe 1 or 2 years after that, but it was one of the last times Sky Sports done the Champions League, and it was a brilliant service. I think it was Gary Neville and John Collins were in the studio, but Jeff Stelling was sort of presenting it as well, and it was like Celtic, because they might have been the only team for the UK playing that night. They were getting the full, ticker tape parade treatment, and I think it was him that said, this is Lenny's Lions. It was something along those lines, but you could tell he was absolutely buzzing, and then you've got Rod Stewart crying in the main stand. It was one of the nights that I think, whether you were at the game or watching it on the telly or anything like that, it's just something that you'll never ever forget. And it's I think our generation will, we might never have another Lisbon or anything like that, but it's definitely one of those famous nights.
I think as well, and you can look at this both ways. Tony Watt, remember Lenny? Well, Tony Watt said years later that Lenny kind of whispered in his ear, "You're going to be a legend, son." But I think these are the kind of moments that can make you or break as a player as well. We've seen that. There's a double-edged sword to this. Like Tony Watt's career should have went sky high, but it went down because he lived that high. And in my opinion, I just think he just let himself not go in terms of physicality or as a footballer, but he thought he made it before he did. Like that kind of mentality we see now for a lot of young players, and do you know what I mean? We think they've made it before they've actually made a proper impact in the first team. And what he done was magnificent, by the way. The goal he scored, the composure he showed at that young age was incredible, to put it past Valdez in the bottom left corner. But yeah, again, I look back on that sometimes and I think if he actually got his head down and just stuck in, I think he would have been unbelievable. He has all the assets. I mean, he's physical, he's quick, he had skill, and he's back at Motherwell. That just shows you your career could go one way or the other in these situations, and unfortunately, his went the other.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that is sad when you look back. What could have been, I suppose, and that put us in good stead with 2 games to go, mate. On to match night 5. Now, of course, we had the draw with Benfica, and they took an early lead at the Stadium of Light, which was again cancelled out. Sorry, with a set piece from Big Sammy again.
Aye.
So with a few minutes left, we're thinking we've got a draw. That would effectively put us through, because we would have went through, although it would still have been a draw. We would have scored a goal. So on the head-to-head, bizarrely, that would have put Celtic ahead in that sense, and we had a home game left, so we were looking very good. But then, just similar to last night, a heartbreaking late winner put it all down to the final match, where basically we had to beat Spartak Moscow, and Benfica needed to beat Barcelona, and if they did that, they would have pipped us to second place. So to say it was set up for a nerve-wracking final night was is a bit of an understatement. But again, we had all the highs of the last-minute winner against Spartak, and then following it up with back-to-back heartbreaking last-minute defeats. It's never easy. It's a roller coaster following Celtic in Europe, isn't it?
Oh, it is a roller coaster. The Benfica game itself, again, I think we more than held their own over in their stadium, Estadio de Luis or something like that. Again, probably butchering the pronunciation of it, but yeah, fantastic arena. I think it was Samra scored the header, didn't he?
Yeah.
At the back post, it was a corner kick. Again, another set piece, funny enough. But yeah, I mean, look, we know what our away form is usually like. Do you know what I mean? We talk about outliers. Maybe Spartak Moscow in this case was the outlier. We got a fantastic result, got a brilliant result against Barcelona. It sets us up nicely into the next 2 games of the Champions League group stage. But I think what was his name? Salvio. Did he score the? Did he score the winner?
I'll just double check. Yeah, they get Salvio Gari or something like that.
Yeah, and it was similar to the Jordi Alba goal. It was in the left-hand side, wasn't it? Our left-hand side, he comes in and nips in and scores. So there must have been a weakness that we weren't looking after then. Again, we've got a lot of weaknesses that we need to look after going into our current European campaign, but that's a talk for another podcast. But yeah, Heartbreak Hotel was visited twice during that, and obviously New Camp and over in Lisbon as well. So yeah, unfortunate.
Unfortunate, but it all paved the way for something, I suppose, that we all would take at the start of any Champions League group, play at home with it all in our hands, with the chance to qualify against Spartak Moscow. I always remember going into this game and feeling that fans were a wee bit too confident outside. There was talks of 3-4-0 and all things like that, rendering the Barcelona Benfica game sort of null and void. But I kind of had a feeling it was going to be one of the nervy nights, and so it proved to be. But thankfully, on this occasion, we were the victors. Gary Hooper often does, just like he did again at the weekend in the Legends match against Man United, pounced on a defensive mistake and right through, and with first time outside of the box, put the ball low beyond the Spartak goalkeeper. So it was to put us 1-0 up. Place was absolutely bouncing. Spartak did get an equaliser before half time, just to add to the already tense atmosphere inside Parkhead. And I always remember people that I was still up in the old corner at that point where I sat, and there was people arguing over Barcelona were winning or Benfica were winning, and people were getting mixed messages, and to say it was tense would be an understatement. Until there was about 10 minutes left, and Georgi Samaras drew a foul in the box and was awarded a penalty. Neil Lennon couldn't even watch it being taken. You remember that footage, and needless to say, I don't blame him, because the ball goes off the underside of the bar, Chris Commons' penalty, and then back up into the roof of the net to give us a 2-1 win. And it was, to say, if we thought the stoppage time against Barcelona was long, then my God, the last 10 minutes that night were unbelievable. Again, I think it aged another good few years in that time as well. But the final whistle did blow, and we made history in that particular year, Stephen. We had finished the group in second place behind Barcelona, who topped it on 13 points. We had accumulated 10 points in the Champions League group stage. No other Scottish team before or since had ever achieved such a feat, and put us into the... Thanks very much, Red Scotland. That put us into the last 16 for the third time in our history, which was absolutely fantastic. First time that Neil had managed to achieve it. So he not only played for Celtic in the last 16 of the Champions League, but also managed Celtic in the last 16 of the Champions League as well. Just another feather in that big cap of Neil Lennon's legendary career at Celtic. It was an amazing night, Stephen, a nervy night, but one that proved to be historical in every sense of the word.
Yeah. You talk about memorable occasions. Barcelona, Spartak, Moscow to get through the last 16. Incredible. And I think Brian Warrior said it earlier in the comments that Neil Lennon was astute in European games. He kind of set up his teams kind of proper to play the opponent, and things of that nature changed depending on who he was playing. I don't know if it worked quite the same now, because a lot of teams kind of play similarly, but he done fantastically well again in the last 16. And that Gary Hooper goal was fantastic. He won the ball outside the box, kind of took it first time, bottom right corner, unbelievable strike. And we were talking about him in the group chat earlier. He was actually phenomenal. I watched back some of the highlights, right? Again, as I said, to refresh the mind, and see some of the things he was doing, dropping deep, linking the play left and right, good touch, held it in. Unbelievable striker. Unbelievable. You know, it's actually bringing a smile to my face thinking about that again. And then you kind of add in I think it was the Brazilian striker, Aris, or scored for Spartak. He equalised, I think it was before half time. Yep. And then for us to get the winning goal by Chris Commons again, it was a thunderfucker, wasn't it? Right off the underside of the bar. Like, you don't even know if it's over the line. You're like, what's going on? And then it obviously, it's a fantastic goal. But yeah, I mean, 10 points in Champions League group phase, first time, as you said, any Scottish club's done that. And what I find actually really surprising was Gordon Strachan done it twice, and Neil Lennon. Two managers who wouldn't really fancy to do it, but they've done it. And I think that achievement in itself is fantastic. And I know, obviously, Neil Lennon and stuff, his managerial career outside of us hasn't really been sunshine and rainbows. But when he was in our job, and especially first time of asking, I thought he'd done really well, especially like Brian Murray and yourself said in European football. The way he played the game, I always loved that he played kind of Samras off the left. He takes the ball in, holds it up, brings others into play. So he wasn't naive, and he knew how to challenge these fucking opponents who were probably stronger than us in every department. But yeah, great things, jubilation. And as you said, we'll come on to the last 16 here, but there's a player I do want to talk about who kind of maybe hampered that last 16 effort. But yeah. Go ahead, Anthony.
It was a strange, but just quickly before we move on to the last 16 tie, because it, as we know, it ended up being a bit of a non-event despite all the hype beforehand. Between December and that night in February, Celtic, obviously the final was played at Wembley that year, and you'd be in the pub beforehand and Celtic fans would be singing, we're off to Wembley and stuff like that. It was absolutely brilliant. It was just a great time, obviously, and without any kind of real threat domestically, that was where kind of all focus was going to at that time. But you're absolutely bang on, Stephen, and the boys in the group chat were spot on as well. Gary Hooper was a fantastic player for Celtic. He was, Samaras was a different kind of player, a kind of talisman in Europe, but Gary Hooper, I would say, the guys were right, probably the first since Henrik, big game player. If you continuously do it against Rangers, and if you continuously do it in European matches, then you're going to get remembered well by the Celtic support. And he got a great reception again at the weekend, that has to be said. Absolutely fantastic player, and I was gutted. It's scary to think that we bought him for $2.5 million, and just due to the times they were in, obviously he wanted to try his luck in the English Premier League, and with his contract situation, we only ended up getting $5 million for him, which is actually incredible when you think about it.
If you look at that squad, like Fraser Foster was a loan, Adam Matthews, I think, was a free contract from Cardiff, Calvin Wilson wasn't that much, Effie Ambrose, a game I got him from Israel for peanuts, Ezagiri, We got him for peanuts from his homeland, and you went Scott Brown, obviously a record transfer fee for Scottish clubs at that moment in time, 4.4 million. Joe Ledley was compensation fee. Chris Commons, 300 grand. Victor Wanyama, 800 grand from a Belgian club. And then you look at Stokes again. All it kind of defeats my argument, doesn't it, about spending big? But look, it's a different time of football, different way, different landscape. But I mean, that team, they achieved what they did for what Celtic paid. And like you said, probably didn't get enough money for Hooper, but I think he was coming to the end and he wanted to leave. And we got 12 million from Wanyama. So we did get a couple of good sell on fees and like got profit margins, which the board loves. But unbelievable. I mean, that whole team probably cost around 11 to 12 million. And that is incredible.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think what's it, and obviously we'll talk about that on the next Champions League rewind. I think one of the, I think it, there's no other. I think it was an out and out scandal the way that the Celtic board treated Neil Lennon the following summer, where the following summer was the first time we ever had to play 3 qualifying rounds, and we must be the only side in history that made our side weaker as each round progressed. Now Kelvin Wilson, of course, it wasn't for footballing reasons he left, and you got to respect that. But we then sold Gary Hooper, and then we sold Victor Wanyama, or it was the other way about. I can't remember exactly which. And gave Neil Lennon a young Timo Pukki as a replacement, and then wondered how we didn't quite repeat the feats of this campaign. I digress, but of course more of that to come on the next rewind. But we'll stay with this one for now, mate. As I say, it was a fantastic occasion getting to the last 16 for the first time. I think it was in about 5-6 years by this point. We got drawn against the old lady of Turin, Juventus, the wily old devils, you could say. I had a few different expressions for them in their manhandling WWE moves in the first half, particularly that night as well. But incredibly, in between us qualifying and the last 16 of the Champions League, the African Cup of Nations had taken place and was won. The player of the tournament was handed to Effie Ambrose, and for anyone that's younger, please don't. You did hear that correctly. Big Effie did win player of the tournament. So to the point where we were actually trying to rush him home to start the match. We started really well. Victor Wanyama fizzed an effort for about 30 yards that stung Buffon's hands, and 90 seconds later, a simple ball went over the top, and all Effie had to do was nod it back, and the rest they say is history. I don't know how you pronounce this. Is it Matri? Basically ran on, gave Juventus the lead. Pretty much manhandled us the rest of the night, and then scored 2 late goals to really put the tie beyond doubt. But it was a frustrating night because I don't think we played. I don't think we gave as good account of ourselves as we could have. Perhaps that young, like you say, that young inexperienced Celtic side had performed wonders in the group stage, and we're maybe just undone with the streetwise tactics of the tallies in the first match. Even if we'd kept it 1-0, miracles do happen. But 3-0, we knew the tie was as good as done by the time the return leg came round.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element of, you could say, dark arts, streetways, which I think Celtic have definitely lacked over the years in European competition. Just naivety and not being able to see games out, which they should have. Like Ryan comes in, playing Ambrose that night was madness. I was just off the plane 24 hours, and the decision was made to put him into the team. And right from the off, it was the wrong choice. Like, I'm not saying he's the only culpable player of why we didn't win or didn't challenge or put up as good as a fight that we probably expected at the time. Because don't get me wrong, there was a few decent passages of play. I think we played quite well in the first maybe 35 minutes or so. And there was, I think, as you said, the mistake by Ambrose Madre goes in, and there was another one where he was dilly-dallying on the ball, and I think Marquisio stole it and he scored, and it was mistake after mistake. And there was one point in the game, and the highlights was watching back as well. Calvin Wilson went mad at him. There was a point where he just turned around and berated Ambrose. Ambrose looked like he wanted to sleep. And look, I admire his kind of enthusiasm for wanting to play, but if you're the management team, you kind of be like, mate, you're just off the plane. Let's relax. I'll put you on the bench and we'll see if we need you. But in terms of there's Brown Warrior about Liechtensteiner managed to stay on the park. Yeah, there was some absolute crazy things going on in the box. And I think if VAR was back then, we would probably have 2 or 3 penalty kicks to contest and go to the VAR screen for that. But some of it was madness, some of it was streetways. You have to admit, I just think sometimes that we lacked that. But don't get me wrong, we were cheated in some parts of it as well. But they scored good goals. A home tie, lose a 3-0. We're not going to Turin. We're not turning that around. And you kind of put that behind you.
And I think that was the sort of mood as we left the stadium that night. And you're right, Juventus kind of turned us over. I say turned us over. It was 2-0, a very, very clinical but professional job over there, and that kind of brought an end to, as I say, our most successful stint in the Champions League format to date. Hopefully, we always hope that there's better days just around the corner. But I just wanted to just sort of end things on a bit of high, Stephen. Just kind of briefly talking about the season in general, not just strictly with Europe, but as we all know, it was Billy McNeil that said, there's a fairy tale about this club, and every now and again that fairy tale, comes back. And the Celtic side 88 were the first ever team to win a league and cup double in their centenary season domestically. And whenever these sort of milestone birthdays come around, Celtic always seem to find a knack of, representing it and sort of showpiecing it in the correct manner. And you have to say, for a season which, as I say, there wasn't a lot of domestic, competition, just obviously with Rangers doing what they did. But to win the league championship is always your main goal. To round that off with a fantastic Scottish Cup win against Hibs, to secure a league and Scottish Cup double, just like the 88 side, but to also accumulate 10 points in the Champions League with, you say, a reasonably, the team assembled did not cost a big outlay, and to put in the performances and results that they did, to get 10 points and reach the last 16 of Europe's biggest competition. It has to be said it was a season that will go down as one of our best in recent times. Of course, we've been spoiled with domestic success recently, but definitely as European campaigns go, this one's been right up there, probably, in terms of the modern day Celtic.
Yeah, that European campaign is what I expect every year from Celtic Football Club.
This is a campaign. This is your reference point, I think.
This is fucking 14, 12 years ago, whatever it may be. Yeah, that's definitely a reference point for myself as to why we should be challenging more than we are at the moment. But we'll see what comes of this season. But looking back at it, I caught the game against Hibs. Obviously, before we come on again, just to go for it in my mind, Cooper scored twice. Back post for his own header as well. A 3-0 victory. Joe Lely top bins. Unbelievable. And by the way, seeing Hampden all green and white, every Saxon.
It was magnificent. I was there that day. Me and my dad and my brother went. It was generally one of my happiest days ever watching a game of football. We done the Roy Keane and some fans might know, but we done the pre-match dinner at Parkhead, and then went out on the bus to Hampden. And I'm never great before cup finals and things like that. I'm always a bit nervous, but the Celtic fans sang "You'll Never Walk Alone," and then like you say, sun splitting the trees, and then it went over to the Hibs fans singing "Sunshine on Leith," and just absolutely magnificent. You really can't. That's what football's all about. But to then put on the performance that we did, we scored 2 relatively quick goals in we scored an early goal, then got another one, I think about 25, 26 minutes in. Yeah. And for that point, you kind of knew that, barring something crazy, Celtic were going to be bringing the cup home as well. It was a fantastic way to end a memorable season.
It was a showpiece final, wasn't it? As you said, sun splitting the trees. The park was pristine. The stadium was packed to the rafters by both sets of supporters. Great day, obviously great day for the Celtic fans like ourselves, winning the Scottish Cup and League Double. And like you said, it was it. The season itself was the first one. Obviously, Sevco died, and they made a tribute act. They were in the Division 3 at the time, so they were. So as you said, the domestic dominance was paramount. I know we started the season a bit shaky, took us a while to get going. I think we got beat by St Johnson amongst all them games, and then we started gathering pace after Christmas and putting teams away quite easily. But hey, Motherwell actually finished second that year, which was quite surprising. you're expecting an Aberdeen or something to maybe do that, but they've done that in the latter years. But look, yeah, magical 125 years. You know what I mean? Some great performances, absolutely great performances in Europe. Fantastic performance against Hibs in the Scottish Cup to win the end of the season with the Scottish Cup and League Championship double. And like, again, unbelievable. And that team that we're speaking about is it's Arnie Engels. That's what that team is. 11 million quid.
Yeah, that's a fair point to make, and it just shows you the way that money's forever changing the face of the game we love so well. And hopefully, if Arnie Engels has as many good performances as Joe Ledley or Victor Wanyama in a Celtic jersey on the continent, then we should be doing okay. But in terms of tonight, mate, that kind of wraps up. Have you enjoyed that little trip down memory lane?
Yeah, 100%. It's been brilliant. Everyone else has enjoyed it, getting involved in the chat, throwing in their memories and stuff. And your Malcolm's, and just to kind of address this, Engels is actually suspended. He's carrying over a suspension from the under 21, so he has 2 games to go. Or I think it's that. I've seen that on Twitter, so hopefully it's true and he's not injured, but I don't think he is.
Hopefully that gives him a little bit more time to kind of get up to speed with all the demands at Celtic as well. So we'll take that selfishly for Celtic's benefit. But yeah, absolutely, guys. We just thought we'd put this on tonight. We appreciate it's there's not much talking points when the international breaks on, and unfortunately, Scotland aren't giving us too much to write home about the last couple of games. But we just thought, well, it's been a wee while since we've done this, and obviously this year's campaign is fast approaching. A week on Wednesday, would you believe? And so we thought, let's get the old rewinds back out. As I say, if you want to go back through, I think there's just a way of doing it, Stephen, isn't going to the previous seasons. You will see the rewind episodes, and you can just click. They'll last about the same amount of time as tonight. So they're decent wee shows just to whittle away a wee hour or two, if you so please. And we'll try and get a few more of these done, I think, as the Champions League campaign progresses as well. And what about yourself? Is there any updates in terms of tonight, in terms of Wednesday or Friday? Will there be shows on for the viewers?
Wednesday, we're potentially looking at the double pivot, and hopefully I think we're aiming to be back Wednesday and Friday, but that depends on availability. A lot of people are taking this international break for family and stuff, and look, that's understandable. I mean, there's not much to talk about, which is why we done tonight a great trip down memory lane. But if not Wednesday, definitely Friday to look towards the Hearts game, which we'll be watching in Belfast in a place unknown. We'll keep that to ourselves, but looking forward to it, mate.
From a secure yet unknown location. But yeah, absolutely. And I know for a fact I'll not be on Friday because I'll be too busy packing my 40 by 20 by 25 rucksack, which is all I'm allowed on. But I'll get all my clothes in. Don't you worry. All my outfit changes. I'll be ready to go. And yeah, absolutely buzzing. But I'll be tuning in whilst I'm getting packed ahead of a mad weekend. Let's just say it's going to be carnage. Yep. God help whoever's on Monday night. That's all I'll say. But until then, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate all the comments and all the support that we always get. And if there's, I thought there some new names there in the comment section. If you like what you've heard, feel free to like and subscribe and all that usual. It's good for us and gets the show broadcast as far people as as we possibly can. But Stephen, I'll leave you to do your famous outro, and we'll see you again very soon, folks. Take care.
Until next time, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.